Back with more Buffy. This is episode 7 of season 7, and yeah, very excited to carry on with the season, see where we're going to take things next. Last episode, what did we have going on? More of a light-hearted kind of affair with RJ, I think his name was, and the enchanted, cursed, magic lemon jacket thing. So there's a bit of silliness going on, but it was nice to kind of have a more light-hearted episode for the most part. I did enjoy that aspect of things, and there was a lot to enjoy about it. And yeah, now we see what on earth's going to happen next. I don't really know. It is normally around this point in the season where things really kick off in terms of like the overall story arcs, so maybe we're going to get something like that. Maybe it's going to be a more kind of one-off thing. Who can say until we actually get into it, but I'm excited to carry on, and it does feel like we've barely scratched the surface of this season, and yet we're on to episode 7 already, so we really are kind of getting through it, you know, about a third of the way there after this episode, which is kind of nuts. But still, I'm really liking this season a lot so far. I think we've got a lot of different and interesting avenues that they could explore, so I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen next, so let's get into the next one. Okay, I was 6 in 2002.
Here we go.
Right.
You keep circling around, just drive straight in. You shut up. Gotta keep it low pro.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
We've got a plan. Fix all that. We should have stayed in Mexico.
You should have.
I didn't like it there.
We had a good run, season 7.
It eats you starting with your bottom. Gonna make it right.
Isn't that from beneath you, it
We're
devours?
outlaws.
It's another chance for me to like them, I guess. And Warren's still dead, so that's okay.
So big. Hey.
Did I fall asleep?
No, I'm here.
For a little while.
I'm not. She says she still sings.
What?
Remember that time on the bridge when you sang to each other? Well, she says even though you can't hear it, she still sings to you.
Oh my god, fuck!
Buffy Summers?
Wait.
Webs.
Dawn. So what have you been up to?
He died.
Well, apparently dying. A lot of kids thought you were dating some really old guy, or that you were just anti-religious. Scott Hope said you were gay.
What? I dated that ringworm.
He says that about every girl he breaks up with. And then, last year, big surprise, he comes out.
Oh.
Man, I know how to pick him.
So,
Do it again! I heard you!
Huh? She was on the couch. Well, this doesn't seem very Joyce-like. Oh god, and we have these fuckers as well. What is happening?
We alert the Slayer. We help her destroy it. We save Sunnydale. Then we join her gang and possibly hang out at her house.
I'm all for you helping out.
Office and work our way down from
Better
there.
than last season.
There you are.
Oh, for
Freaking gore here.
Jesus.
Do you have any idea how hard?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Do you think maybe Willow could kill me too?
Hey, don't worry. If Sharon pulls off his end of the bargain, we'll both become gods.
So is this the thing that was haunting Spike at the start of the season?
You killed people. You can't see her.
Oh,
It's just how it is. I'm sorry.
that's mean.
But I miss you. I miss you so much.
She misses you too. She wishes she could touch you.
Me too. Oh, me too. Oh, God, Tara. It hurts so much. Every day, it's like this giant hole.
You're strong, like an Amazon, remember?
Oh.
I just think you're in some pain here, which I do kind of enjoy because I'm evil now. But you should just ease up on yourself. She's so sweet. We have this great thing, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna go vampify her just so we can be together forever.
Sire,
We're gonna have to fight to the death, aren't we?
it's the time-honored custom.
Wow. Reality just shows up sometimes, doesn't it? But you know,
Amen.
with the bloodlust pumping, whose fault was your parents' divorce?
You cheated.
So, of all of these relationships of yours,
Remember when she was scared it was her
you
fault?
subconsciously were totally doomed. Maybe you think you're better than that.
Say, there's that bloodlust I was looking for.
Struck a nerve.
My best friends don't even. You'd laugh if you heard some of the things I've done to them.
Buffy, I'm here to kill you, not to judge you.
Aw.
The last guy I was with got really. I behaved like a monster. Treated him like. But at the same time,
RJ?
There's nothing wrong with you.
You son of a bitch. Yeah, I should think so too, buddy.
Are you hurting my mother? Are you keeping her from coming back to me?
Ah, no.
I'm coming towards you, okay?
Oh, it's horrible.
She's my mother. I'm staying.
See you in high school again.
Hmm.
Maybe we should start over. There it is. What? Are you sure? Yeah.
I love the way they're using, like, the ghosts.
But are you killing me because I'm evil or because you opened up?
It's her job.
This thing on
I
my
do like that
phone
she's
was
opened up
actual
to him,
came
and
about
someone she
your
barely
way.
even knows,
Do you remember her?
as opposed to all her friends with all that burden.
see, this is what I hate about you vampires.
Your last relationship. Was it with a vampire?
I don't know where to start. After Lauren shot you, I never want to cause that kind of pain.
Of course you don't.
So, I won't. I'm gonna be okay.
She says
What?
you're not gonna be okay. You're gonna kill everybody.
Oh. I mean, there's some shady shit going on with it all. So are they trying to stop her from just using magic?
I miss my friends. I miss my enemies. I miss the people I talk to every day. I miss the people who never knew I existed. I miss them all.
Not one of them cares about you.
Well, I still care about them.
Oh.
That's why I'm here.
Oh my.
I will cast you out. My mother needs to talk to me.
Damn, Dawn. Oh my.
I cast you from this place.
Windows again? My god.
I wanted to hurt like I thought I deserved. Sort of think
She didn't like herself last season.
I'm beneath them. My friends, my boyfriends,
From beneath you it devours.
feel like I'm not worthy of their love.
She told Spike, you're beneath me in season
Even though
5.
they love me, I feel like I'm better than them. Superior.
But Buffy, everybody feels alone. Everybody is. Until you die. Speaking of, you ready for our little death match?
You can be alone, but you don't have to be lonely.
I suppose
You know, there's some things you can only tell a stranger.
you're not a stranger. With that stuff with Spike, it's pretty.
Hold it.
What?
Did you say Spike?
What is happening here? What is happening here? Jesus. Dawn. Oh shit. Oh my. Oh, that saves you one job.
If you do so much as another spell,
I tried to stop. I tried. What if I can't do this?
be with her. Everybody will be safe and you'll be together again. It's not that bad. Really. It's just like going to sleep.
Tara wouldn't tell you to do that. Neither would Cassie.
Who are you?
He was the guy that sired me.
Oh shit!
When it's bad, Buffy won't choose you. She'll be against you.
What?
No, don't go! Please don't go!
Suicide thing was too far, huh?
What?
You seem so right.
From beneath you it devours.
Oh, not it. Me.
What the oh, that was... Oh my god. Okay, I adore that episode. I thought it was wonderful. Potentially one of my favourites of the season so far, I would say. I also really liked the kind of Anya-centric one. I mean, it hasn't really been a bad episode this season, but I really, really loved how this one was kind of structured. You know, right from the off, they were like, this is a different kind of one, because it actually had like the title show up, which is pretty cool. And the different interpretations of that, I thought was really interesting. The fact that we had these characters potentially talking to some like ghosts like Joyce or Cassie. Through that conversation, Willow and Tara were kind of also technically talking. Spike and that woman, the woman was kind of a dead woman walking. And Spike's dead himself. Buffy was talking to a dead vampire. We had... that's hilarious, I've forgotten his name. Andrew, for fuck's sake. I literally had to, after the episode was ended, and I was like thinking the names of them, I was like, I'm going to have to Google this. And I was like, is it Tucker? Or is Tucker the brother? I can never remember that. Oh, that's Andrew. Andrew talking to Warren. And Jonathan's also kind of a dead man walking in that sense as well. So I liked all the different interpretations of that. And this is a really kind of holy shit moment, I think, for the season, and it's all linking up with the from Beneath the Devours thing. I'm assuming those things are the same things that were like haunting Spike at the start of the season, that were, like appeared as all the big bads. I'm assuming it's the same thing. It makes sense. And I'm assuming that's also why Spike's killing people again. I think he's kind of listening to the voices in his head. And I kind of like how in other episodes this season we've seen him be tormented by all these people, these like ghosts that no one else can see. It's just Spike who can see them. Kind of like I think it was episode 3 when he was talking to Willow, but obviously Buffy and Xander were there and they couldn't see Willow. So it was like Spike's talking to all these people who are actually there. In this episode, everyone else was kind of talking to like people who weren't really there or dead people, and Spike was like the only one they didn't show have like an outside influence speaking to him, like a complete flip of the rest of the season for this one episode, which I thought was really interesting, considering, you know, I don't think Spike's issues there have gone away, and I feel like he's probably motivated, just like what they were telling Willow to like kill herself. I feel like maybe they're telling Spike and torturing Spike a lot still, saying you need to kill these people. I don't know why, don't know what the reason would be for that, but that's obviously I think going to be explored. That is if it's what's going on, or Spike for some reason got his soul back and thought, delicious people. And it didn't seem to be hurting him. I don't think they actually showed it hurting him to kill his people, so is something going on there? Obviously, I'm just speculating at this point, and I don't know exactly everything that's going on. I don't know anything that's going on, actually. But nonetheless, I did enjoy them really raising the stakes, I think, with this one, pun intended. And I feel like this is the big bad being like, yep, I'm gonna muck shit up for you. You thought season 6 was terrible for your mental and physical health, just you wait. Rubbing their evil hands together. It made me sad that they used like such a wholesome character like Cassie as like a face of evil, but I think that's kind of the point of it. Anything goes. And again, they definitely have all this knowledge of all these different events and stuff, because, you know, they mentioned Tara singing that song to Willow in Once More With Feeling, and they mentioned the strong, like an Amazon line from, I think it was The Body they talked about that in. So they clearly have this big knowledge and stuff. And all I'm thinking of is the first, but surely this would have been a really good time to say that's who they are. If it was that, I don't know. But either way, I feel like the pieces have really been put on the chessboard here, if that's an expression, kind of. And I really love the way they did it, you know, how it was all cut together, all these different stories. You could have easily done like, okay, this is Buffy's portion of the episode when she's talking to Holden the vampire. Then they go to Spike for a little bit. Then they do the Willow and Cassie stuff. Then they do the Jonathan and Andrew stuff. Then they do like the Dawn and Joyce stuff. You could have easily cut it that way, but I like all the stories being spliced together in that way, because it makes the reveals a bit more powerful, I guess, like the reveal that Holden was actually sired by Spike, and how they set that up earlier in the episode with Buffy actually telling Holden what the word meant. I thought that was really, really well done, very well written in that sense. I thought that was very cleverly done. And it's a chance to bring back or reference some different people, and it would have been lovely to have Tara back in that, but I did like the explanation that they gave, that, oh, you know, whether you've killed people, you don't get to see her, you almost don't deserve that, you don't deserve the right to see her. But it's still bloody emotional, that whole sequence, even before it's like, well, Cassie's clearly evil here because she's telling Willow to kill herself. So I think they must have a plan. I feel like Willow is, you know, they see Willow as a big threat with her magic to maybe stop them. So they're like, well, if we get her out of the way, either by telling her to stop using magic, or if that doesn't work, tell her to kill herself, we can eliminate a big threat to us. I feel like that's where they're going with that, and maybe that's what they're doing with Spike as well for some reason. Maybe they see him as a threat, they make him start killing people again, so Buffy's like forced to kill him or something, I don't know. Take him out could be a thing, I guess. Then there's the whole, you know, what's Warren's whispering in Andrew's ear, and they needed to sacrifice someone to activate that big thing on the floor. So that's going to come into play in their plans somehow. I'm not seeing how all this is linked yet. But we're 7 episodes into the season. We have, 15 episodes still to explain all of this. So, of course, they're not going to play all their cards right now. So, yeah, really interesting. And the idea of, like, strangers that was kind of running through the episode as well. We kind of had Buffy talking to Holden, and she, you know, it took her like half an hour, I think he said, to actually recognise her. He was kind of a stranger, and the idea that she's finally opening up about all this stuff to someone she sees as a complete stranger, and that's sometimes it's easier to kind of, you know, have these strangers bear the loads for you as opposed to like your loved ones and your friends. And that makes me think of Spike's song in Once More With Feeling as well. He's like whispering in the dead man's ear that doesn't make it real, you know. He's like, you know, your friends couldn't deal with it or something if you told them, and that's kind of, I think Buffy's kind of internalised that, and that's why she doesn't open up to people in that way. And there's some really interesting kind of examinations of Buffy's character and stuff in this one. And there's just something so brilliant about, you know, Buffy and the vampire are fighting. The vampire recognises her, and they just have a bit of a chat about life and death, I guess, and relationships and kind of psychoanalysis. I thought that was such an interesting idea that, you know, they just have a bit of a chat before they inevitably have to, you know, one of them has to kill the other one. I thought that was really cool, and I actually really liked the kind of camaraderie between those two. I thought the actor who played Holden was really good. Giving all these details about life and stuff like that. I thought it was cool. I like the idea that Buffy has a superiority complex and she has an inferiority complex over it. I thought that was really interesting. And the fact that Buffy said, sometimes I do feel superior to them. And you get it, because she's like a fucking superhero. Of course she's going to feel superior at times. And it reminded me a lot of Faith and her attitude, She was like, well, we killed one person, sure, but think of how many people we saved, we're better than them. Buffy was kind of against that at the time, but I think why that bothered her so much then was that she kind of felt that too. And it's not anything against either one of them, really, in a way. I mean, Faith kind of took that and went about it completely the wrong way, so I kind of can judge her for that, actually. But with Buffy, she tries not to act on that, and she tries to ignore that superiority of course she's going to feel. So the fact that she does try to ignore it and doesn't really act on it, I think actually says a lot about her character, and what a wonderful person she is. So I really enjoyed that, and the fact that she's also feels inferior because she has that complex at times, and talking about what she went through last season, and she wasn't, she was going through a lot of depression and self-hatred and self-loathing, and that kind of led to that really awful toxic relationship she ended up having with Spike, and he abused her, she abused him. It was a very kind of crazy thing, and what Holden was kind of talking about, maybe she just will never get close to anyone, was kind of sad, really, because I think she has gotten close to people. We've seen that. It's just whether or not those relationships last long term, I guess, is the real thing. Because being the Slayer is always going to play a role in things. It's kind of her duty. So I really liked all the conversations that those two kind of had going on, and just the simplicity of it. Just like, we've seen so many scenes of Buffy walking through that graveyard, fighting a vampire, staking them, I'm a badass, cue opening titles. And the fact that this time, they just had a chat. It's such a simple idea, but something so unlike a dynamic we've seen before in that way. Normally when Buffy gets along with a vampire, it becomes a romantic thing. But this was just Buffy and not even an old friend, just someone she knew, who over the course of one night kind of stopped being the stranger. And that's when she killed him, after she kind of said, you're not a stranger anymore. Because they'd gotten to know each other a bit, and they'd had that chat, and she'd open up to him. And then pretty soon after that she kills him, because maybe he's right, maybe she keeps people at a distance, maybe she can't get close to people, because when she got close to him, she had to kill him. The burden of being the Slayer. So I thought that was really, really interesting and well done. I loved everything with that. And then, we only saw the Spike stuff very briefly, and I think it was very interesting that I don't think he had any lines in the episode. I think they always just showed him at a distance. He was drinking. You saw him chatting to that woman, but we didn't actually hear what they were saying. Then they walked back, then he killed her. Or sired her, I suppose. Well, that is killing her, isn't it? So they're not giving him a voice, so we don't know exactly how that all played out and went down with Spike. He could have had those people whispering in his head, but we don't know that yet. In a similar way to episode 3, when you play out the scene, you think he's talking to Willow, and then you see that Buffy and Xander are there as well, and how that's kind of sometimes what they show you in terms of Spike and his conversations with people isn't actually how things are really working out and going down. So I like how they're, again, playing about with that. So I feel like there's more to that, which is cool. And even though we didn't see a lot of it, we didn't need to see a lot of it with Spike's kind of story in this one. And so much was going on, so much was happening with all these different stories. I feel like they actually nailed it with how much screen time each storyline got. Xander wasn't in this episode. I can't remember Xander not being in an episode before. Maybe it's happened once or twice, but I don't think so. And I think it makes sense, because if he had a storyline going on in this as well, I think that would have been a bit too crowded. So, very well judged in terms of the characters he focused on and how long for. Just really impressively written, I think. I wonder how, I've stopped speaking. I wonder, how many drafts and stuff this particular episode went through. How many bits are, rewritten or tweaked. And it's interesting, because it absolutely could have fallen flat if the chemistry like with Buffy and Holden wasn't quite right. You know, like, oh, can we just skip to see some other stories now? But it just worked, and the fact that they had Willow talk to Cassie and they barely even interacted in that episode earlier in the season, you know, like she said, and like she recognised Cassie from like the picture on her website, that was about it. And yet it still had like a nice connection between them, even though it wasn't really Willow. And I think the fact that they tried to use Tara as like a voice against Willow there was why it worked so well, and shows how evil these motherfuckers are if they're trying to use Tara against Willow to be like, oh, you should kill yourself, you know. But that whole sequence was so emotional when she was like, oh, she's still singing to you, you know. You can't hear it, but she's still singing and she misses you. And whew, that got me good. That was really emotional. Again, it's just Alison's awesome performance. And me missing Tara kind of all added up to me sobbing in that scene. That was really, really well done, really sad. So I liked everything with that. And the fact that as soon as they suggested Willow needs to take her own life, she was like, well, this is bullshit. Who are you? I love that she saw through that right away. Reminded me a bit of season 4, yeah, with Parker, when you feel like she's falling into Parker's trap a bit when he's talking to her, and she's like, how stupid do you think I am? Reminded me a bit of that sequence. So I like that Willow is very consistent with that character. When it comes to Tara, of course, she's going to be very consistent. Tara's never, you know, Tara's the most wholesome human being to have ever existed. She's not going to tell me and suggest, oh, you should kill yourself and join me. That's just not her. So I love that that was the moment where Willow was like, this is bullshit, go away. So I loved everything with that whole sequence with those two. And I guess the only other things to... Oh no, Dawn and Joyce. Let's talk about that before we talk about the other two. Or the other three, I suppose. And that's the Dawn and Joyce stuff. Oh boy, I like that they had a bit more of like a horror kind of gross element to it compared to the rest of the stories. That's where like a lot of the action and the set pieces kind of came from, that whole story. And I have to say, Michelle killed it in this episode. I thought her performance, I think that might be her best performance on the show so far. I thought she was awesome. Just that kind of vulnerability she had to show, the strength she had to show, and Dawn was like trying to like perform an exorcism or whatever. That final moment where she actually sees Joyce there, and she's kind of hearing that apparently her and Buffy are gonna turn against each other or something. I just thought Michelle was incredible in this episode. She really did kind of nail it. And it was cool because, you know, the idea of like, oh, someone has a chat with a ghost, blah, 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 blah. That's all very well and good anyway, but, you know, it's in danger of feeling kind of samey if everyone's just like, oh, they're having a chat with a ghost. But luckily they all talked about different things, and then the sequence with Dawn, they really kind of played up on the horror and kind of creepy elements to it. Like that shot, well, it was like a almost zombified like Joyce, and then they also just had a shot of her just normally lying on the couch, like when Buffy found her, which was uncalled for. Buffy, that was rude. They really played up with that, and then they had Joyce at the end there looking like Cordelia when she ascended. So it was great to kind of see these characters again, even though technically we're not really seeing them again because they seem to be this weird force of evil. But I loved seeing Dawn kind of do a bit of target practice with the crossbow or whatever, and do a bit of training and really take the initiative when, you know, I think season 5, if she'd gone through that, Buffy hadn't answered the phone, Dawn would have fallen apart. But now, you know, 2 seasons on, she's like, okay, Buffy's not answering her phone, I need to deal with this myself. Even though I don't know what to do, I come up with some solutions. So she was trying like spells, she was trying exorcisms and stuff. She really took the initiative, and that just shows how far she's come and how brave and awesome Dawn was in this. I really, really loved how she handled the whole situation. And even though she was terrified and stuff, she still tried to work through it. The second she was like, okay, I may be able to see Mum again here if I get through this. I need to save Joyce. She was like absolutely determined to get there. And then ultimately I'm not sure if it was worth all the effort given what Joyce told her, or not Joyce, probably told her. But again, they kind of used Joyce in a different way. They like made her appear very angelic, and then she kind of faded away after she was like done warning Dawn about stuff. Whereas with Cassie, she faded away. She was like and like ate herself, which was kind of disturbing. So it's interesting how, if it is the same force that all of them are kind of going through in this episode for the most part, they still appear and disappear in front of people in different ways, depending on how they want to influence them, I suppose. Because, you know, if Joyce was there like, Dawn, I love you both, you and Buffy, but, you know, Buffy's not going to be there for you, you're going to turn against each other. Then she went, I can do it, disappeared like that. You know, I don't think Dawn would have been like, oh yeah, I believe that. But now, maybe she can. So clearly this thing's very, very intelligent, so I like that. And just as heartbreaking as it was to see Joyce again, it was still very well done. And, you know, if Dawn's going to buy kind of this weird prophecy, future telling thing, the fact that it's in the shape of Joyce, I think is the most believable option for her to kind of really get her shaken up. And that may affect the Buffy-Dawn dynamic in an interesting way. So we'll see what happens with that, because the last episode was kind of about the closeness between Buffy and Dawn. And Buffy realised, you know, how ridiculous the whole situation was when she saw that Dawn was in danger, when the train was coming to, like, kill her. And that made her snap out of everything in the last episode. And now we're like, oh, maybe that's going to be tested a bit. So that's really interesting. And I loved that whole kind of sequence going on with those two. And then we have the trio. I mean, it's just my daily reminder to people. I don't hate season 6. It's in my top half. If I were to rank the seasons, for sure, I really enjoyed it. Just because I didn't like the trio and they didn't quite gel for me doesn't mean I don't understand what they're about, and they're not technically the big bad, but still. It's your daily reminder. And all things considered, the fact that it wasn't really Warren, it was like this force using Warren's kind of being, I think makes it a bit like easier to stomach, even though he's got a really annoying demeanour. You just want to punch him in the face, but then they'd probably go right through him in this instance. And yeah, I'd have happily never seen any of them again. But they did come, well, they made it seem, at least from Jonathan's point of view, they came to find this thing and warn Buffy about something and these nightmares that they'd been having and stuff. Then you get the reveal that Andrew kind of is listening to Warren and has him whispering in his ear, and that makes sense because Andrew did seem to have that connection to Warren in the last season as well, and I think they're very clear with, I think Andrew has romantic feelings towards Warren, so I wonder how long he's been seeing Warren appear to him and kind of idolises him, and probably is kind of in love with him in that sense. He's going to do whatever he says, and that meant sacrificing Jonathan to get his blood on that Sealy thing, and then it all glows. So how that ties into the grand scheme of things, I don't know. But I guess that means we're not quite done with at least Andrew. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, he's being, in this instance, he's being manipulated by this outside force in whatever's taking Warren's form. So, you know, he's being manipulated in that sense. Can't really hold that against him. But, yeah, interesting. And, like I mentioned earlier, talking about, like, the strangers. Like, Buffy was almost a stranger to Holden. And then we had Jonathan kind of talk about he misses all these people from high school that probably didn't even know he existed. And they're all strangers to him as well. I liked how that tied into the theme. And Andrew was saying, you know, they don't care where you're at. They don't care about you. And Jonathan was kind of like, well, you know, I care about them. That's kind of what matters here. I'm going to save them, even if they don't care about me. So, Jonathan, coming through. You're making a bit of progress. Well, you were making a bit of progress then. You got stabbed and died. So, rest in peace, Jonathan, I guess. That's kind of crazy, actually, because he's been around for ages. And now he's dead. So, could it have been anyone? Was it just, you know, unfortunate that Jonathan had to be there? Did they have to kill Jonathan specifically for some reason? I don't know. I'm sure we're going to get more answers about that. But you know what? This is a much more interesting story for me using these characters than it was in season 6. So I'm already a lot more on board with this. I'm actually very intrigued to see where they're going to go with it. So I'm actually excited for a bit more of that. I mean, it helps that 2 out of 3 of them are now dead. So 1 to go. Willow, get on it. No, don't get on it. Don't turn evil again. But yeah, interesting. And there does show that there's still a bit of good in Jonathan, even though he disappointed me time and time again last season. He had a few moments and then he kind of just went back on it straight away. And I still stand by that. But clearly he's being plagued by stuff. Maybe if they didn't have these nightmares, he wouldn't have had this change of heart in a way, and he wouldn't have come back to Sunnydale to try and help Buffy out or warn her about something or whatever. But, you know, he did, and they came back. Then he was murdered. But I kind of liked that moment when you think to how he was in earshot. And he was, you know, the episode made it seem like, oh, he's going to kill everyone. He's going to kill everyone. But he was actually just going to kill himself, and it was the evil lunch lady or something that was going to kill everyone. Because no one noticed him. And, you know, he felt like the big outcast because of that. And I think a lot of that led to him even joining up with Warren in the first place last season. And now he seemed to have made peace with that. And he was like, well, it's okay if they don't necessarily care about me. I care about them. That's important to me. And that gives me a sense of purpose in life, I suppose. And that's the tragedy of it now, I guess, is because as soon as he seems to have made peace with that aspect of himself, he's dead. So there we have it. We'll see where they go with that. But I'm actually very intrigued by that story. And yeah, the manipulation of Andrew by this weird ghost Warren thing could be quite fascinating. And the fact that they came in straight, you know, they brought them back and then immediately like killed one of them off. That's one hell of a way to go about it. So we'll see what happens with that. But they set up a lot of really, really interesting things in this episode, and it all seems to be linked to this weird force that's kind of haunting all of them. So I'm sure we're going to get a lot more answers about it, hopefully in the very next episode. It would be interesting to find out what Xander was doing all this time, like where he was in this episode. Like he's probably just having a nice, like, quiet night in, and then all this was going on for everyone else, and he's got a big storm coming when everyone kind of tells him what's been going on. Everyone kind of sharing those stories, I think, would be kind of cool as well. The fact that everyone had all these big issues in this episode, and then when the episode ended, they still had no idea that everyone else was going through their own stuff as well. Because it wasn't like Buffy was dealing with this supernatural force, she was just having a chat with the vampire. And I think her way into that is finding out that Spike's been like siring people. And yeah, whether or not that's this other influence that's doing that to Spike, or if just Spike's own accord, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm excited for that, and I'm actually excited to see where they're going to go with the whole Andrew Warren thing, and Joyce's kind of prophecy about Buffy and Dawn, where that's leading, and just this weird thing making itself known to everyone now. So I'm tired of going about this balance thing in the universe. So I don't know if it is like the first evil. So I don't know if they were talking about that, or if it was the powers that be who kind of talk about, you know, balancing stuff like that. So maybe is it them for some reason. I don't know why they would do that. I don't know. My theories are the powers that be and the first evil, unless they're the one and the same. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm actually genuinely excited to delve into the story a bit more. And who would have thought I'd see those faces again of the trio and actually be kind of enjoying their stories and excited to see a bit more of where they're going with it now. But there you go. You know, I'm all for them bringing the characters back if they can do something interesting with them. And so far, right from the bat, it's been working for me. So that's a very good start. Hopefully it will continue. So yeah, really awesome episode. I love the way it was structured, the way it was written, all the foreshadowing and stuff, all the different conversations with dead people. The idea of like being the stranger and how they kind of used Spike and kind of switched how he'd been presented compared to previous episodes this season, whereas everyone else was kind of seeing things and ghosts and stuff. I liked the horror elements to Dawn's kind of sequence, and I thought Michelle was fantastic in this episode. I love the dynamic between Buffy and Holden. And, you know, the Willow and Cassie stuff at times was very, very emotional. So yeah, everything kind of firing on all cylinders with this episode. I absolutely loved it. I feel like we're really kicking into gear with this season. So excited to see what's going to come next, for sure. And that's it for another cycle. So I believe it is all Buffy next in the cycle, I think. Pretty sure. So that's episode 8, 9 and 10. So yeah, excited for that. This episode was awesome. One of my favourites of the season for sure. and I look forward to seeing where they're going to take all this. But until my next reaction, thanks for watching.